All right, we are live. Hello and welcome to the Rabyd Atheist. I'm Ed Raby. So welcome to the Rabyd Atheist. I'm Ed Raby, your host. Former pastor turned atheist, now compassionate anti-theist. So welcome to the stream. Today, we are going to talk some U.S. election results. Hello to Martin and Paul just joining in chat. Thank you very much. I'm kind of delaying a little bit, trying to allow people some time to get here. So thank you, everybody, for coming out. We're going to talk U.S. election today. I also have a comment that I want to deal with it because I deal with it often. Hey, Asho. Happens a lot. And so it's one of those things that I want to deal with on the reg. So I'm also going to put the link to this and pin it up to the top. So if you do want to come in here to StreamYard with me, you can. But I'm not going to have too many people there. Hi, Lisa, Asho, all you guys coming in, the normal crowd. Shaka, good to see you all. But yeah, we're going to talk U.S. election at first, and then I also want to, because it'll be the last chance I really get to stream about it before it happens. So, and then I'll probably do a stream afterwards on Wednesday. So we'll deal with that as well. I also want to talk about this question that I have, this comment question that I get often, which I don't understand. I don't understand the question. And then you also have, there's a question that keeps getting asked, and Rationality Rules has been dealing with this question back and forth with a couple of apologists, and I'm just going to ask Theists to please answer the question. They seem to be avoiding it, so I want to see if they can actually, answer the question. So, but U.S. election talk. We are already embracing ourselves for one of those wonderful presidential elections that we have every 4 years. And the one thing is for sure, we're going to get a new president. We're going to get a new vice president, though that's just happening. With Trump, it's like... do I believe it'll be over on Wednesday? No, we haven't had an over election. How many 4 years running now? I think it's been since Bush Gore. It's never been over on Wednesday. Okay, there's always some sort of contested something. And this is a close one, so I'm sure that it absolutely is going to, they're going to have some shenanigans going on. So don't ask how I end up here. So I don't know. I guess I'll address the presidential race. I look at a lot of composite poll places, where people take all these different media polls and put them together. Give it 6 months. I don't know. It's not the question of faith of whether this is going to be done in time. It's a question of past experience. There's always these contested results. There's always some drama that takes place. It's not, we all in America, we talk about the October surprise where somebody drops a surprise story on the other candidate. I don't know if that's so true anymore. I haven't seen that this year per se. What I always see now with presidential elections, it is more of, are we actually going to have the whole drama over by the inauguration? Exactly. This is what I'm talking about right there. Okay. Is it going to be done? That's more the reality of American presidential elections. Is it going to be over by the inaugurations? Okay. And getting that done quickly, okay, is kind of the issue. So, but I look at the composite poll results, and from a national level, it's a dead heat. It's well within the statistical margins of error. If you have a margin of error of 3%, it really is that kind of thing. It's very, very close. I have run a lot of scenarios in my head, And I can see Trump winning the popular vote, but losing the Electoral College, which would be a very interesting scenario for Republicans to find themselves in because they've won that way 4 times themselves. And, the Democrats have never won that way. So it's very interesting to me if that happens, what the talking points on both sides are going to be. Because I know the Democrats will like, see, all this, we won, you guys won before. Yeah, so I think you're right. There's gonna be a lot of upset people. The real problem with America right now is we have these 2 big tribes that don't like each other, that yell at each other a lot. There's not a lot of unity between the 2 tribes sometimes. Now, I will say, if you watch your politicians, if you watch your politicians, they do agree with each other a lot, and you have to kind of deal with that issue. But we Americans have just gotten into this. You got to form one or another opinion. You can't have. So, I mean, for those of you not from the United States and not familiar with the Electoral College, each state gets Electoral College votes, and I try to describe it as actually we have 50 separate elections for president. Each state has their own, and the Electoral College is the way we reconcile those so that we respect smaller states so that they don't get overrun. And so, yeah, we have that issue. Okay, a lot of people say it's not fair, but it was created so that small states wouldn't get overrun from a population standpoint. So it's not a popular election thing. The popularity in each state determines where each state's electoral votes go, and then there are some states, a couple of them, that have created rules where their Electoral College votes can be split depending on who wins what area. Like I think Maine's that way, and a couple others. So you also, Nebraska has, I think, 2 Electoral College districts, one around the city and then the rest of the state. Those were created because of the whole rural versus urban dynamic. But the Electoral College was originally created because you had states like Vermont and New Hampshire and Rhode Island, Connecticut that were smaller and less populated. And so that's why they created it, because those states were afraid that they would get overwhelmed by the popular vote and they wouldn't have to. Yeah, people ask me if I support it. I guess I understand the logic and reason behind it. Okay. It's about allowing each state to have its own sovereignty to a certain extent. And part of that is making sure that they don't get overwhelmed. There's still a popular population dynamic in the Electoral College because you get the number of votes is equal to the number of senators, which everybody gets 2, and then your House of Representatives. Okay, so it's kind of it's a very interesting system, but maybe I don't know. It doesn't work that way in practice, though. What it does, I'm not sure about that one, honestly, Rimmer. The issue was every state back then kind of considered itself its own sovereign entity in and of itself. It's what led to the Civil War in the first place. But these smaller states wanted some protection against the larger one when it came to electing the president. Okay, so give us some more votes. Yeah, here's a comment that I definitely got to show. Modern politics, yeah, it is somewhat of a religion. That's kind of why I'm against it. It's become, as somebody who struggles with religious aspects, politics has definitely got very religious. But I think there's a lot of devotion to party. Okay, that's very similar to religious devotion to a creed. If you, like, for instance, if you take a stand on an issue that your popular party doesn't, then it's not the other side that will yell at you. It'll be mostly your side that yells at you. And this is true, I think, in a lot of Democratic elected governments around the world. You know, if you have a different view on an issue, like if it's just I don't see that we've evolved past the tribalism. Yeah, the shaming. David brings up a good point. Yeah, the shaming. Yeah, it's you'll end up getting shamed back into your tribe. There's a lot of tribalism in politics, and it's funny how I'm gonna yell at my fellow atheist brothers and sisters sometimes because I'll sit there and decry tribalism and then engage in it. Um, yeah, so it's a complicated question. So I'm just looking at all the Sims, and I think I'm going to predict a Harris victory, but it's going to be a slim one. I think she's going to win the Electoral College and maybe not win the popular vote. So that's my Sim for it, and it's as good as anybody else's. Yeah, yes. Okay, tribalism is never going away. The problem is when people recognize tribalism exists and then don't really do anything about it personally. Okay, like I know it exists. And so whenever I feel pulled into a camp, I'm like, okay, wait a minute. you know, and I think once you're aware of it and you realize it, is my mentality just conforming to the tribe, or have I really rationally thought about the issue? And that's where it's a struggle. Well, this is an interesting one. Yeah, Rimmer's from Sweden, so I'm already attracted to Sweden because of my heritage, but I do have Swedish ancestry, just so you know, Rimmers, if you didn't know that over. Can I address that? No, I think if you vote, you can't complain. You're the one that put the person in power. So you can't complain about the person you put in power. You had a direct effect in that system. Okay. I'm sorry. I think George Carlin has the best monologue on this idea of voting. Okay. Because he will literally say, I stayed home on election day and didn't vote at all. Okay. And he gives a reason why. He says, you guys are the ones that put these people in power. You have no right to complain. I, on the other hand, who stayed home on election day and did nothing, you guys got what you wanted. Okay. I'm the one who can complain because I didn't vote because I didn't think anybody was worthy of my vote. Okay. You can turn that on its head. I think that's a lot of crap. So it's like, it's just one of those things. This year I've just made the conscious choice that I'm going to be objective and not vote at all. Okay. Because I want to sit back and watch things, and it's more of a political commentary decision than anything else. But also, I don't feel like a lot of the candidates this time around even deserve my vote. Okay. Yeah. To me, I think the whole idea, though, if you don't vote, you're not allowed to complain. You're always allowed to complain, whether you vote or not. And if you make a conscious choice not to vote, or you decide that none of the candidates are worthy of your vote, that's just as much a decision as voting itself. And so I don't get into that part of it, in the sense that I don't yell at people for not voting, because if it's a conscious decision, they don't want to do it, fine. So do you? I'm going to get what somebody else wanted, regardless of whether I vote or not. Okay. Somebody else wanted it too. If I vote for somebody, there's a whole bunch of other people that vote for it too, or vote against it. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not, see, this is more my mentality right here. You're giving me a choice of between two evils, and I'm tired of picking evil. Okay. Give me a good candidate. Give me somebody that's worthy of my vote. You're not worthy. My vote is like Mjolnir. Okay. You got to be worthy to get it. So, but yeah, so that was the that's the presidential part. But I've also been looking at the Senate and the House. Congress is up for grabs again, and nobody's talking about it as much because, you know, every presidential election it kind of gets buried. Congress. Um, so yeah, that's kind of that's an interesting thing because I've run the House simulator a million times based on polling, and I've only gotten a Democrat victory like 5 times out of 100. It's possible, but it's a long shot. Uh, yeah, I'll address this question too. Um, they were not founded on Christian values. When you look at the founding fathers of our country, most of them were not Christians. They were deists. They were very much a product of the Enlightenment. The whole Christianity myth, the founding myth, is just that. Andrew Seidel does a great book. It's been released in America called The Founding Myth, where he researches this question. And a lot of what happened was, in fact, there's newspaper articles at the time when the country was created that have been preserved and archived, where preachers who had a regular column absolutely railed against the new government because it didn't have a state religion, that the state religion wasn't Christianity. So they railed against it. And so that mythology has been pushed away. There's a lot of mythology responding around the founding fathers, particularly George Washington has a lot of it. I got it this week where somebody was asking about the cherry tree, and I can't tell a lie. That was all that. I can't remember the guy's name, but he was trying to sell his. Uh, they were trying to sell this idea. This, you know, it was a 50-year anniversary of the United States or something to that effect, and he was trying to sell this, and he had a lot of this mythology mixed in order to sell his book series, and that's a larger part of it. So yeah, the thing about a lot of Americana stories about our origin and founding, you have to cut past a lot of bullshit to get to the truth. And I don't think this ever was designed to be a Christian nation. It's why the First Amendment says, okay, government can't establish a religion and it can't restrict religious freedom. Okay, that's what it says. That is a very secular view of religion. You know, you're allowed to have it. You're just not going to impose it on the government. That doesn't sound like somebody who's a Christian trying to impose their will. And also, uh, you can't have a religious litmus test for running for office. Now, this is the hard one for us atheists, okay? Because we keep trying to get somebody in, okay? And if you don't have some sort of religious belief, it's like you can't get people's vote. They don't trust you. It's the whole, if you're an atheist, you don't have any morality kind of thing. That's kind of where it is. And so, um, I don't know. It's kind of, to me, it's always been kind of frustrating as an atheist because the truth about the origins of this country is it's very, very much Enlightenment thinking rather than Christian thinking. And a lot of the people that made the Constitution and later the Bill of Rights had very little to do with religion. I think of like a lot of them maybe. I'm going in. The issue for me with this one is because atheists are often pushed aside, and this channel is about normalizing atheism. I don't know atheism is normalized when 10% of Congress is atheist, because that's where we're headed. Okay, it, the fact that I can count the number of secular people in government at the congressional level on one hand is a problem. Okay, it's a problem. It's not representative of what's happening in the nation as a whole. But I don't think the U.S. was founded on Christian principles. I think it's the first nation not founded on some sort of religious principles. And so it makes it truly unique. So I think that's one of the things that, yeah. So I don't know. To me, no problem. So I don't know. Yes, he did. That's one truism that he did. He said lighthouses were more useful than churches. Um, so he definitely was a founding father, and he didn't have it. Uh, I can think of several like Thomas Paine, who wrote Common Sense. Definitely, probably an atheist, but he's one of the few founding fathers that doesn't have some sort of monument in Washington D.C. to him. I think actually he would probably prefer that, but I think he's the one that made instructions at his deathbed. I don't want to see a single preacher when I'm dying. Um, it's like let me die in peace kind of thing. So when you look at what these guys believed, I fail to. I mean, George Washington was a Christian, but boy, was he very, very critical of Christianity. Holy crap. He was very critical of his own religion. So it's like um, it's just one of those things. So there's a whole lot of mythology about the founding of our nation. Somebody mentioned the Pilgrim story. Yeah, there's a lot of myth around that too. That's, you know, but yeah, I'm a big, yeah, me too. I'm a big fan of Thomas Paine. He's a great author. His book Common Sense, when you really think about it, I mean, it's dated now. Um, so I guess we'll see. We'll see. Um, Getting back to our Congress, I don't see the House changing. I think it'll still be Republican. It's the Senate that worries me, because that's a dead heat too, in my opinion. I think the polls might be a little bit off there. But the real problem this year for the Democrats is they just have there's not a lot of Republicans up for reelection. There's gonna be 38 of them no matter what, and there's only 28 Democrats no matter what. So there's a lot of Democrats that are up for reelection in the Senate, and they got to hold on to their seats, and so and that's becoming problematic. So it's very possible. Well, let's run through the scenarios. If Trump wins, he is going to most certainly have a House of Representatives on his side, and he might have the Senate. And because his VP candidate would also be the president of the Senate, that would mean that even if it was a tie, he could break it Trump's way. Okay. Uh, that's a very likely scenario. One that's probably a nightmare for most people because the Supreme Court is fairly conservative these days too. It's more Catholic than the Pope. So you have that. And then if you look at it, possibly if Harris is elected, then Congress doesn't matter as much. So it's there's a lot of things. To me, the Senate is really up for grabs, and it may very well depend on who the VP can't, because the vice president is the one who heads the Senate. So, we've got our Walls and what's his face? Yeah. I try not to remember his name because I find him very distasteful, but you're going to have that guy presiding over the Senate and being the tiebreaker. So in case there's a 50-50 deadlock. So it's not just about the senatorial seats being held. It's about who the VP person is going to be. So the Senate is really the issue to me more than the presidency. Because if the Senate goes Democrat, then it doesn't matter if Trump's in the office. He'll never get anything past Congress. And so he's going to have to rely on executive orders and stuff like that. And yeah, so that might be interesting. If Harris wins and the Senate stays in Democrat hands, she has a lot less of obstacles. She's just got to get things past the House. And that may be difficult. Okay, so for me, as a libertarian, gridlock is always a positive thing, because then stuff that gets through is usually actually either beneficial or the two parties agree on something, and that's always dangerous too. So never know. You never know with our elections. See, American elections are great theater. They're good entertainment if you're in that kind of mind. So that's that. I don't know. Yeah, there's a lot of, see, yeah, this is the problem. It's horrible. Okay. American elections are just horrible. Okay. They just, you know, there's no, I wouldn't mind the tribalism so much if people actually respected each other as human beings during it, but neither side, I mean, come on, Dems. Somebody needs to tell Biden to go back into his hole and not talk. You know, coming out and saying that Trump supporters are garbage, that's just not a good political move. Okay, because now you've galvanized all the Trump supporters. You know, these Democrats think we're horrible. You know, the chief Democrat has just spoken and said we're garbage. You know, that's just not a good move. And then, you know, Trump trying to defend himself against being a fascist, that's not a good move either. It's just like, I want to know who these people's publicists are because they're just stupid. Okay, they're just dumb. Um, so, you know, if I was going to give a prediction, I think Harris is going to win the presidency. Not by much, but she's going to win it. I think she's going to win the Electoral College. I think the popular vote might be in question. I could be wrong about that. It's very, very, very close. And I think the House is going to stay in Republican hands the way the polls are going. And I also think that the Senate is the big toss-up question. I think it's going to be a 50-50 split, so it's really going to depend on who the vice president is. So I don't know. Based on the scenarios, I guess all the more reason. If you want a reason to vote for Harris to keep gridlock so neither side does too much damage, probably a Harris vote does that more than a Trump one. Tuesday is going to be interesting. So I'm trying to be as objective as possible. I don't have a dog in the fight. I don't. Neither candidate has lifted Mjolnir, so to speak, for me. That neither one of them to me is worthy of my vote. So I may vote it on everything else except the presidency. So I may find a third party to do it, but I've done that before. So yeah, this is the other issue because I think you might be right. That's why I go to composite polls because I go to the places where they take all the polls and put them together, and even that oh man, even that is kind of questionable. So I don't know. I honestly don't know. Sometimes I think these polls, because you know, if we remember a couple of presidential elections ago, Hillary was in the front by like 2 or 3 points, and she ended up losing. So she lost the Electoral College. In fact, it got to a point in the night where they're like, is there any road for Hillary to win? And the answer was no. Okay, about halfway through the night. And that was shocking to a lot of people because the polls had her ahead all the time. And that's the problem with the polls. If I'm just giving predictions based on polls, and the polls could be completely wrong. Okay. You know, I think sometimes pollsters kind of they ask the same groups of people the question without realizing it, and trying to come up with a very objective way of doing polling is very, very difficult when you really look at it. So but I think that's it for me for the election talk because it wearies me. So I want to get to basically a comment that I was given the other day. It wasn't a couple days ago, I guess. And this has come up a lot, and it's a question I still I don't understand the question. I don't understand the insinuation. I don't understand any of this. And when theists do this, I've been on this channel almost 5 years. It'll be 5 years in January that I've been doing this. And I have gotten this at least every other month, if not every month. So I get it in a certain sense. I get you Christians love to call into question my Christianity, call into question my pastorhood, I guess. But I don't understand what the point is. Because even in this comment, you know, pastors are a dime a dozen, dude. Okay, so why is it such a big deal that I claim that I was one if they're all over the place? Okay. But yeah, and your actual question there is that's a value judgment. I would be the last one to say that I was a good and faithful pastor, other than so I'm not really Gravy seal. So I don't understand the objection to my pastorhood. Okay, when I say that I'm a former pastor, I do not understand the objection. And so I get a lot of it. To me, it sounds very ad hominem. Okay, it's a very ad hominem attack. And so it doesn't really deal with it. As far as whether I was a good and faithful pastor, you'd have to ask the people that I was a pastor over. Okay, it's not my call. It's a value judgment. Here's a fish for it. Okay. But how is that? And then, calling me a trained SEAL, it's like, what is that? If that's just a personal insult. Okay. That I was just a pastor that was trained to do a certain thing and that's just the way it was. I don't think so. I mean, I cut against the grain in the Assemblies of God because I didn't agree with a lot of what they said. I didn't agree with a lot of their policies. I didn't agree with a lot of their theology. So if I was a trained SEAL, it seems like I would just like gone along with the flow and did what the tribe told me, but I don't do that. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I'll fry it up later. I don't get it. Okay, I still do not. I've gotten this objection in a lot of different ways. You were never a real pastor. You were never a real this. You're never real that. But I don't get it. Okay, I don't understand the question. I don't understand the objection. And I guess the next time somebody makes this objection, you need to be a little bit more explanatory and deal with it. Quit insulting me and actually give me something to run with. Yeah, it's the no true Swede Scotsman fallacy. It's like I never really. Yeah, mostly because they have this book that they really believe. If you look at ministers when they're polled about their biblical knowledge, they don't do as well as atheists as a general rule. Like pastors and preachers don't do as well as atheists on knowledge tests of the Bible. But the ones that do the best are usually Pentecostal charismatic types and fundamentalist preachers like Baptists, people that really hinge on the Bible. That's kind of, they do tend to be more biblically literate than the rest of them. But like a mainline pastor doesn't know what half the Bible says. So there's that. So I don't really understand this at all. So I guess I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait and see if somebody actually does this again and actually gives me some reasons of why they think that's the case. But, I don't know. I don't find that I was ever a trained SEAL, though. I think I'll object to that. I don't even eat that much fish. So there's that. The other thing I wanted to talk about today, I follow Rationality Rules with Steve in there. And he did a video, I don't know, it must have been a week ago, 2 weeks ago, where Sean McDowell was, trying to answer a question. And of course, he countered the question. He didn't answer the question. Then Braxon Hunter did a response to Stephen, and then also didn't answer the question. And so I'm coming out this one. Hey, Bren. Theist, would you please answer the question? Okay, because the original question, if you go back to Sean McDowell's video where he is asked this question, the very question that's on the screen, he completely sidesteps it and answers a completely different question. And Stephen on Rationality Rules simply pointed that out to everybody. And then Braxton Hunter got on and said, well, the answer is obvious. Worship is good for you. Okay. So the two answers that both Sean McDowell and Braxton Hunter basically gave to this question were, well, he's worthy of it. Okay, he's worthy of worship. And the other answer was from Braxton Hunter is, it's good for you. If you worship God, it's good for you as a human being. So yeah, for me, I've been watching this debate for a while. I watched both videos. I'll leave both videos in this stream descriptions in case you want to check out what the debate's all about. You can probably even look up the original videos by Sean McDowell and Braxton Hunter if you want as well. But the whole thing that really frustrated me and what I want to talk about today is neither one of them answered the question. The issue is, if God demands our praise and worship, doesn't that make him a narcissist? So, yeah. And that, I think Braxton didn't realize it, but he made it worse. Because if God is truly worthy of our worship, and I'm speaking as a former theologian, I would yell about this. If God is worthy of our worship and it's good for us, and that's so patently obvious, and God is the omni everything God, then what he wouldn't need to demand it because he would be not insecure about who he was. It seems like somebody who demands praise and worship is kind of insecure about themselves. That's why they prop themselves so much, and it makes for a natural. So that's that, right? But there's also, if it's so true, then why doesn't everybody? God wouldn't have to demand it. He would just. It would be the thing. Okay, it would just be. Yeah, it just makes sense. And if God is so wise and loving and everything, why doesn't he present something to us where we can't refute it? Okay, it seems like if human beings can refute it, then yeah. There wouldn't be a need for him to demand it. And this is the part of the question that you theists need to answer for me. Number one, don't do what Braxton Hunter did, which is never define what a narcissist is. We're going to define arrogance and pride and all this other crap. We're going to dance around the word narcissist. Don't do that. Give me a definition of narcissist and tell me why God demanding praise and worship, not being worthy of worship, not being, good for us worship. Why does God demanding it not make him a narcissist? Why does that not? Okay, that's the issue. Yeah, that's the question I want answered. And I'm still waiting for an answer. And I want to talk about this too. This is what was so disappointing to me about apologetics and what makes it such a travesty to me. Okay. Is I would see people in the pew ask this question. Okay. And they wouldn't get an answer. And that was what became real problematic to me. So that was the issue for me. And so I'm waiting for an answer for this question, because this is the problem with apologetics. You get asked a direct question and then you don't answer it. So, all right. Hey, Bren. You asked a question earlier about the streaming.
Hello, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you. You're coming.
Yeah. Okay, good. I just muted that the thing because it plays double sound.
Okay. Yeah, you usually have to mute one or the other so that you can hear. I usually mute YouTube so that I can.
Oh, it's okay. It's okay. Yeah, sure. It's okay. It's okay. I muted the StreamYard. It's okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, either way, it doesn't. You're going to get a double if you don't mute one or the other.
Anyway, as I was saying, that's true. Anyway, as I say, the whole thing about narcissism and God is, I find it interesting how, in the Catholic sense, it never actually pushed that much about narcissism itself, but more so other ideals in the background. And that's what I found interesting. So in that sense, is it more a directive of your specific branch of Christianity itself? Because
You're coming through, man.
yeah, let's go from there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think the thing about American Christianity is we have this, it's so pervasive in our culture that we have people that sit there and talk about God demanding our praise and worship, as otherwise you get the consequence of burning forever in hell. Okay, if you don't. And so it's kind of that becomes the issue, Bren. I mean, in America, it's kind of one of those, you got to do it or else kind of thing. And I think even Catholics here in America have that view of it a little bit. I mean, they got the purgatory thing where you kind of get a halfway point.
Where does it come from, though? Where does it come from, though? That's what I find interesting.
I think there was in the United States, we talk historically about the Second Great Awakening and its effect on Christian culture. And I think it hit everybody. Even if you weren't part of the revival under Charles Finney back in the 1800s, everybody had a response to it, kind of thing. And part of that was, yeah, God is worthy of our worship, but he also demands it. So we better toe the line and worship him. Okay. There's a mentality of you have to worship God or else kind of thing. It really is. It's why later on in the 50s, you have this kind of Christian revival again. And, in God we trust gets put on the money in, the 50s and stuff like that, anti-communist stuff and things like that, all about God. And I don't know, there's a weird blending of politics and religion in the United States.
For context, I'll say.
Yeah.
The context is I grew up in the UK, so as you know, in UK there is religion, but like the religious influence isn't as much. So there's a general tendency in the UK to be less over religious.
Yeah, I think that's probably correct. The issue I have with the United States is mostly that we have this. There's this unconscious. If you don't believe in something, there's something wrong with you. Okay, there's definitely that aspect of it, and I think that's been the problem that I've had for the United States since becoming an atheist for a long time. And it does stem. There is this attitude that the question presents of God demanding our praise and worship. And then the atheist counter is, well, doesn't that make him a narcissist? Because if he's demanding it, why would he need to demand it if he's the omni everything God, first of all? And second of all, if it's good
anyway, as to address the Azos statement.
Which one?
And then you can continue, because there's actually an interesting subpoint he mentions. Because he mentioned that so Britain doesn't have the "We Are Christian Nation" or any not really. But how it actually works is actually a different doctrine. Is that where the doctrine is more so the king is the head of all faiths.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So the idea being he's the head of all things, and therefore
If it makes sense.
It makes sense that way. Okay. Well, I can see that from a Catholic point of view, I guess. But I think the thing with American Christianity is far more Protestant as far as pervasive of the culture. I think it stems from a lot of people with the idea that we came here to escape religious persecution from other places, kind of thing. So you have a lot of people that were more Protestant in their outlook. But I do know that this idea of you have to be religious is an add-on to what the country was originally founded to be. It was founded as a very secular nation, and the Christians objected to that. And then they had their revival, like in the early 1800s. And then Christianity kind of permeated all of society and became a part of it. And we've never gotten over that yet. So that's kind of I think it's a real cultural thing, is what it is. But I think you're bringing out the cultural problems with the question. Okay, but I want to answer to this question because every time I hear it answered, they sidestep it. Okay, they sidestep the narcissist part of it, or they sidestep the demand part of it. Okay, because the guy who originally asked the question, Sean McDowell, said we see that in the Bible all over, that God demands our praise and worship. We see it in the Bible, so it's a very biblically oriented question. Okay, and that's kind of his focus. And why doesn't that make him a narcissist if he's demanding our worship in the Bible, kind of thing? So I can see where like different Christianity forms and different denominations could definitely
in terms
have a
of
different
that
view
position
about
itself, I agree.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm looking at
Because
these.
thinking that God is a narcissist dependent, going off the Bible itself, does make sense.
Yeah, it makes a very big sense, because especially when you consider Yahweh himself, because he's kind of this, he demands worship, or else he kills people that don't worship him properly. I mean, come on, he kills Uzziah for trying to write up the ark, trying to do God a favor. So it's I don't know, it's really kind of one of those questions where I think it does have an American base, as far as looking at it from a purely biblical point of view. When I was at Asbury, one of the things that Methodists kind of taught me is that the Bible wasn't the only source of authority for them. Tradition was in there, reason, experience were also authoritative forms. They call it the four pillars kind of thing of authority. So I could see where they would have a different view of it, but most denominations in the United States are very, very heavily Bible, Bible, Bible. So you see that in the Deep South in particular, but everywhere else there's Christians, it's the same. But yeah, but I'm still waiting for a theist to answer this question. And I've had.
Anyway, I just want to clarify. I'm not actually interrupting you. And anyway, as I was saying, I'm not actually interrupting because there's just a lag in the system.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, thanks. Yeah, thanks. All right. Yeah, but I think you bring up a good point, because I think he's what you have. I think what you have here is the fact that there's a definite cultural influence as far as the question. Because if you are a heavy Bible-based Christianity, this question is going to hit you harder than, say, a system that's based on multiple different types of authority. Like in the case of Catholics, you have the Pope, you have church tradition, you have other things that factor into the question of what we're worshiping God for, okay, kind of thing. And so there's that. I to be honest, here's the thing. When I look at Western countries in Europe, Western Europe in particular, I don't think that many of them consider themselves Christian nations as much as they used to. It's a very unique American problem. But then again, Sean McDowell and Braxon Hunter are American apologists. Okay, they're addressing an American question. Okay, what Bren is very rightly bringing up is that in other cultures, this question wouldn't have the same force, say, to a Catholic. Okay, a Catholic is like, So what, yes, the Old Testament God demands a lot of praise and worship, but there's other things to consider besides the Bible. Okay, let's go to the church fathers. Let's go to all the other things. So he makes up a very, very valid point, depending on what you're looking at. But in the United States, let's be honest, the fundies and the pre-suppers, when it comes to Christianity, are thick as thieves right now. Okay, and this question actually hits them harder than anybody else. I think this is the issue, because I'm still waiting for a good fundamentalist to answer this question. Okay. But he does bring up a cultural point that's correct. He also brings up, a denominational religious issue that is also correct, because it really depends. Okay. It really depends. But when I'm dealing with, because Rationality Rules, Stephen is a Brit, as I recall. Okay. He's from the UK. Okay. And he's dealing with American apologists, and they're like, but this is a theological question that's deep if you look at a biblical view of God. But yeah, it's yeah, yeah, I wanted to point this out. Bren's he's in a completely different time zone, and we were having a lag problem there in that discussion. That's why I was trying to be respectful, let him talk. But it's like he's a good guy. He's one of my moderators, one of the first guys to moderate. So thank you very much, Bren. And I value his input. There's the issue has always been in American Christianity this belief in the Bible, and so it's a question of change and cultural change. But in the United States, Christianity is so ingrained because of like the Second Great Awakenings. There's always this revival of Christianity mentality in the United States. Revivals are still very big. It's one of the definitely. Brenda's a smart cookie. He is. Okay. And like a lot of smart people, he has to take his time to formulate his stuff. So yeah. I know. So I don't know. It does hit it, but when I listen to Steven's videos, and I'll leave those as links in the description, I think I already have. He's dealing with a question that does have a cultural aspect if you believe the Bible, because the original question, if God demands our praise and worship, and we see this all over in the Bible that he does, doesn't that make him a narcissist? I think that there's an issue with that. That the issue of Christianity is, if you're a Bible believing, omni-God believing person, why does God demand worship if it's self-evident that he should be worshiped? Okay. If we had an omni everything God that we could prove exists, he would be worthy of our worship, and it would probably be good for us, which is the point that, Sean McDowell basically says he's worthy of our worship. So, whether he demands it or not is irrelevant. Well, it is relevant. And then you get Braxton Hunter's answer, which is, well, it's good for us. Well, if that's so inherently true, why does God have to demand it? Okay. And doesn't his demanding it then indicate that there's also a narcissistic element to God? And so I don't know. I'm still waiting for the answer to this question. I'm waiting for a mainstream apologist to actually answer the question, because both Sean McDowell and Braxton Hunter avoided it. They sidestepped it. And it's like they didn't even answer the question. They went a completely different tangent. So there's that. All right. Uh-oh. Okay. Hi, asshole.
I just had to, since we've been on a stage before, and I'm surprised. I don't even know if Earl's still in here or not. But I'm thinking, okay, now maybe I'm thinking wrong, and I didn't want to type this out. But as an Exian, to me, anybody questioning what God does or doesn't want kind of falls into the same thing as, he's God. He can do what he wants. He can play with his food. We're the ant farm. So, maybe that's what kind of throws him off. How can God be a narcissist? He has the right to do everything, according to the mentality of some theists. Does that make any sense at all?
Yeah, but that kind of goes along with the inherent state of him being worthy of worship. It's
Right,
like,
right.
okay, it's like, okay, he's inherently worthy of worship, but that's not the question. The question is, why does he demand it? Okay, because if it's so inherently true that he's worthy of worship, we would just worship him and he wouldn't have to demand it. Okay, but that doesn't come out. Okay, the Bible constantly has God demanding our worship. Okay,
Right.
what is deficient about God that he has to demand it? And if there's a deficiency, then doesn't that make him a narcissist for doing so? What is it that he needs out of worship? Because you could say, oh, he just wants worship. Well, a want is still a need. It's a self-actualized need. It's something that I say, I want this. It's a need I think I want. So why does God want worship? A central thing to him. It's a theological question.
Right.
Okay. So it's like, this is one of those questions that when I was deconverting, I did ask a lot. Okay. It's what caught my attention about it, because why does God have to demand my worship if he is the thing? Okay. If he's the dude, why do I have to, why does he have to demand it? Okay. And how does it not make him a narcissist to do so? Why is it? I mean, Stephen pointed out, look at the first three commandments. Okay, are they not the commandments of a narcissist?
Right.
Okay,
the heck with slavery or world hunger or
yeah,
let's worry
exactly.
about, hey, no idols, don't take my name in vain, and for all, heaven's sake, be in church on Saturday or Sunday, depending on how you feel the Sabbath is.
Yeah, and that's the thing, it's like why does he have to make those three commandments if he's so self-sufficient within himself? He wouldn't need worship. Okay, so why does he demand it? Okay, if you don't need it, then why do you demand it? Okay, that doesn't make any sense. Okay, you demand something if you need it. Like if I'm starving to death, yeah, I'm going to demand some food because I need it. But if you don't need something, why do you demand it? Okay, it's nice to have, but oh well. It seems like God's attitude should be towards worship. It should be more like, if you do or don't, it doesn't matter to me. Okay, I'm still God. It's. But
well, I don't even think it stops there. Why does God or even Jesus go to the lengths that he does? He wants you to hate your family, regardless of who they are, to follow him. If you don't hate your family, you can't follow him. So to me, it's a compensation thing, because a lot of narcissists, granted, we're talking about the Almighty versus, us puny humans, but us puny humans who have narcissism are very insecure people. And to me, that's what God is. And you read it all the way through the Bible, his insecurities, or, oh, you're not going to do it. I'm going to throw a temper tantrum. Let's go ahead and create a flood. We'll start over. Even though I know everything's not going to be all right, we're still going to do this so we can get that damn rainbow out of the way.
Yeah. But yeah, it's kind of, Yahweh is a very odd character. Okay. He really is. I mean, as funny as my take on, whether Jesus was a lich or a zombie or whatever is, it brings up a theological point of, why did God need to do the whole Jesus thing in the first place? It really creates, this funny dichotomy that, that God, Yahweh is, the source of Jesus, the warlock's powers kind of thing. And that's just an odd combination to me, because the God Yahweh and the Father God that Jesus is talking about seem to be two very different people.
Right.
It's like,
well,
Jesus.
And the New Testament, the Old Testament, they're like split personalities, two different gods,
Yeah. It really, and, this gets brought up to Christians all the time, that you seem to have two different gods, because the God that Jesus describes is a loving God that takes care of, sparrows that fall and everything else. But Yahweh God will kill you for trying to write his own ark. Okay.
Or kill you if you're a fig plant that doesn't give you fruit out of season.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. And Jesus does that too. He'll curse a fig tree for no reason. It's like, there's this, this thing with God, like if he doesn't get exactly what he wants, which is weird because he's supposed to be all powerful and all knowing, he curses it. it seems to me if God was truly sovereign, he wouldn't need to curse anything. Okay. It seems like there's a lot of things out of control with this God. And that seems to be the problem. Okay. You know, like he doesn't, once something goes out of his control, he gets pissed off about it and does something evil. Once I've been writing my, my deconversion story, and I came up with a title. Sorry, I can't go back. That's the first time I've announced that, but
nice.
That's why I can't go back, because I've seen behind.
You can't unsee it.
Yeah, I can't unsee it.
Yeah.
Okay, I can't unsee what I've seen, and the problem with the God of the Bible and what I've seen is he's kind of a real evil God. He's not a good guy, and once you see that he's not a good guy anymore, you get rid of the God is good all the time, God is good indoctrination level. You can't unsee that. You can't go back. It's like, can Dorothy, the Tin Man, the Lion, and the Scarecrow ever see that the professor is not the professor and go back to seeing the all-powerful Wizard of Oz? No, they can't. They can't do it, and neither can I. I can't go back to Jesus. So it's sorry, I can't go back. Okay, it's like it's really a hard thing to talk about with people because I just can't. I can't go back. Okay, I can't. Once I've seen he's just as mythological as everything else. How do you go back from that?
Right.
You have to delude yourself all over again. And I don't think I have the capacity anymore to delude myself. Well, maybe I do. I just fall into it now. I don't do it on purpose anymore. I just kind of, but it's good to see you, asshole.
Yeah, it's been a while since we've been on the stage together.
We've been rolling together for a while now. It's what, a year?
Over a year, because either I'm at 12 or 13 months just on
membership.
The membership. So then another, I couldn't even tell you how long, 3 or 4. I don't think there's a video that you've made that I haven't seen.
Okay, so yeah, it's good to have you around. Okay, I really do mean when I said that when you became a member, it was kind of a turning point for me, because I had.
You cry, aren't you?
I'm not trying to.
My mascara is going to run.
Yeah, there you go. But yeah, it's just it. I was really thinking about giving it up at that point because I had put membership out and it had been like a couple weeks, a month or something.
Oh, it could be frustrating. Yeah,
it was very frustrating at that moment, and I was. Just a frustrating moment. Then you became a member, and then I think a bunch of other people suddenly became members because of it. You kind of started a little bit of a trend there, and so it kind of turned 50%.
That's what you're saying.
Yeah.
Oh no, you give me the damn Smurf instead. Oh yeah, I got Smurf.
Yeah, but it was an emotionally turning point for me in this channel because I had been doing it for a long time. It's like. People ask me how long I've been on YouTube. It'll be 5 years in January. It's like, and for a lot of those years, it was just like crawling to 50 subs. It's like,
it's hard.
And it's hard. And then, this last year has been a real, I can't say enough good things about it. I hit 1,000. The next thing I know, I'm 5,000. And
it's been really, that you did.
Yeah.
It's like really, Joe, he's still at 1.2 or whatever. And that's, I helped him get to at least 1.45 or whatever it was. And that took forever.
It takes forever. It takes forever. And then all of a sudden, bang, this last year has been really, really good.
Yeah.
And
I'm happy.
I'm adjusting, I'm doing the streaming thing, and StreamYard actually makes this really easy. There's a lot of easy parts to this that I really like. So for somebody who worries incessantly about how can I even use the program? So it's like, it's been a wild ride, and you've been a part of a lot of it. So thank you very much. And
thank you.
I do. I appreciate it. I appreciate you being a mod too. I appreciate all my mods, just so you know.
Except Lisa, she's a wild card. She wants to get rid of me. I know it. I like Lisa. There's only one person here I really don't like, and that's like Fred. No, I don't. I like Fred. We had a rocky start though. All of the politics. We turned it around.
Yeah, well, but that's just it. I think I'm trying to foster a community here where we can have disagreements on various subjects and still be friends. Okay.
Right.
It used to be that way, as so. I mean, I was thinking about it, I was talking about it with my therapist a week ago about this very issue. It's like I try to be friends with people, but everybody's so polarized these days.
Yeah.
And it's hard. I mean, I guess I grew up in the days where you sat around the table at lunchtime in the high school and you had to get along with people that were vehemently opposed to you on a lot of things. And so you learn to be friends and respect each other's differences. And I just don't know if that exists anymore sometimes.
Nice.
It just bothers me.
Jova, you go, boy. Nice.
I
Just
think
gifted
Jova.
5 memberships.
Yeah, thank you very, very much. I appreciate that. No doubt. So
Now,
thank
Ed
you
can
very
eat
much.
for a day.
I have a solid job, besides this, so I do okay. But somebody asked me what my monetary goal was. I says, if this turns into an extra paycheck, I'll take it.
Right.
Okay. It's like, that's kind of where my head is at about promoting the channel. It's just getting it to that level.
Yeah. See, mine was once it started to become a headache, I'm taking a break or quitting it. And right now, I don't know if I've quit or semi-retired or going to even start streaming again myself. But I still come on stage on a lot of different channels, though.
So yeah, but yeah, it's for me, this has been a slow burn anyway. So a year ago, well, let's see, it's been about a year ago, I wasn't even monetized. So this last year, it's like been kind of nice. It's come through a couple of times. So, but StreamYard, you guys, if you're a member of this channel, you're paying for StreamYard. So that's one of the things you're paying for.
Did you get the StreamYard Pro or the Essential?
Just the basic. I'm not going pro yet.
Well, I'm going to say, I was going to talk to you about this the other day. If you ever think you need a little bit more oomph, don't go with the Pro because, I got the Essential. It only cost me $100 a year. And the only difference between the Pro and the Essential, but you'll have to ask for the Essential. They don't advertise it. I just knew about it, is the watermark. For $100, I'll keep their watermark on there. I'm not worried about that.
Yeah. So what I have works and it's really good.
Yeah. I like StreamYard.
I'm always antsy about new shit. My autistic brain goes into overdrive every time. It's like, I don't want to do anything new. So, but yeah, this has been a real pleasant experience. And the biggest thing I wanted is like when I'm talking on a stream and I'm addressing somebody's question, it's nice to put their question up on the screen.
Yeah.
So, and that way people know what I'm talking about. But yeah, so I don't know. I've had a lot of good fun with it so far. So I'm happy with that.
So like Bren, he'll pay the extra for the watermark. And I understand that some people are funny. I just, $100. I mean, not that I'm rich, $100 isn't going to kill me, but just for a watermark. And I just wanted to make sure I'm glad I didn't get the big one since I don't stream there as much now, if at all.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you do you, Asho. I mean, I'm our relationship's always been pretty good. So, and so it's I know there's some people that don't like you. I don't understand it. You're just a lovable fuzzball that has.
My mom don't even like me, so I understand
it. Yeah, I mean, it's a personality thing, I think, more than anything.
Well, more than anything, it's you're talking about earlier. So I could relate to the tribal, and I won't call her out. She knows who I'm talking about. But there is tribal everywhere. I mean, whether you're religious, you're not religious in the alphabet community. If you're not in the alphabet community, I mean, you've got the gatekeepers, the gaslighters, on and on and on, sort of thing. So you just have to navigate and take the good with the bad. It's the only way you can do it.
I mean, the thing is, I know for a fact there's good people out there that will have discussions with you, even if they disagree with you. It's just everybody. There's a whole bunch of people that are so over the top, they get all the attention. And I think that's probably the biggest problem that I have right now. because it's really easy in the day of social media to get attention, and not necessarily the good kind.
Right.
So, but yeah, I mean, I've enjoyed everything so far. It's been a good year. When I get
You've had a
from,
kick-ass year.
I've had a kick-ass
You
year, and
did.
so I'm not complaining at all, considering the other 4 years were kind of like struggle.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I just hope I'm alive when you could get to that 20K or the 10K, whatever it is.
I want to get to, the next major goal is 10K. I think we passed 5,000. It's like 270, 5,277 right now, something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, but yeah, it's been a great year, and so it's been a good boost. But I don't know. I want more influence. I think my story and my expertise kind of lends that to it, because I can make a theological argument with a theologian, and point out their flaws, which there's always flaws. So I don't know too many of atheists that can do that.
Right.
So and mine sticks too, because I got the educational cred behind it. So they can't say I'm an uneducated idiot when it comes to theology. So
yeah, they just called me an idiot anyway. But
well, yeah, they do that to me too. I mean, you had the guy earlier that's like, calling me a trained seal. Everybody wants to give me fish all of a sudden.
Yeah.
It's like, but it's like
you're gonna have to change your name of your channel now to the Rabyd Seal.
The Rabyd Seal.
The only pasta that's got a tight seal.
But yeah, I don't know. It's the ad hominem that I laugh at them, most of them now, because they're just hilarious. Yeah, because it's like, you don't know me and you're saying that about me.
Well, then they'll step their game up if you don't really address or give them credit for being buttholes or whatever. So they always step it up, or it's like, wow.
Yeah, so it's been that part of it I've gotten used to. I've definitely applied a lot of Stoic philosophy to insults over the years now. It's like, somebody was like questioning my character, and I have half tempted to write in, you don't even know the half of it, it's the kind of thing. Because that's the typical Stoic response to an insult, is just, you don't know the half of it. I struggle with
the one thing I'm surprised at in some of your comments is that they haven't went at, unless they haven't, I just haven't noticed it. But your so-called quote unquote sexuality, I figured that would be a something that they'd poke at, which I haven't seen.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, I've gone through all the deconversion, I've gone through all the stuff, and I'm still very much a heterosexual male. I still like girls, and I think that bothers both sides. Okay,
right?
It bothers Christians, because they think they have this mentality that I just want to sin and I want to go do something else.
Right.
I want to go off the rails. I want to,
because you're pissed at God.
Pissed at God or whatever. But it also bothers people on the left, because it's like, you've explored your sexuality and you're still a heterosexual. What's wrong with you? Kind of thing. And it's like, I'm like, no, I mean, I have the Nuka girl back here up here for a reason. She's a curvy pinup, and that's what I'm attracted to. It's like, I like girls, and
but you've also got a cowboy back there.
We got
Marlon
Brando. Yeah, well, I added the Tombstone reference from Doc Holliday there, Val Kilmer, because it's one of my favorite movies. I love Val Kilmer's portrayal of Doc Holliday.
Yeah,
but it's not, historical accuracy aside.
Prepared for that.
Yeah, he went because he had to thin down. He had to lose a lot of weight to do that role, and he was slightly sickly when he did it. So
it was like when Tom Hanks did was it Sleepless? No, it wasn't Sleepless in Philadelphia.
Yeah,
where he's a gay lawyer or whatever with AIDS.
Yeah, he had to do a lot of that. He had to cut down his diet, practically these guys were starving themselves basically to do the role. So,
but is he your Huckleberry? That's what I want to know.
yeah, I love that moment. I love that
I do
moment
too.
when he steps out of the trees and says, "I'm your Huckleberry." You know, so it's a good moment. But yeah, The Godfather and the Nuka Girl references back to the early days of the channel. You can see them in my early videos, much larger form. So I did the change.
Been through a change since I've been here.
Yeah, I turned the desk. My desk has basically been turned 90 degrees and pulled forward so you can see more of the background. And it allowed me to, I now have my box lights so they're crisscrossing me instead of right in my face like they were. So it's a little bit easier for me to deal with. It doesn't hurt my eyes as much. Spotlights always have bothered me. So.
Right. Yeah, you're not squinting what you normally do with that light right there. I felt so bad for you. You can see it right there. And it's like, oh.
Yeah, because when it's right here behind the camera, it's just like, yeah, when people see me walk out into a sunny day, it's a humorous experience because I literally I close one eye and squint the other, and
they're probably waiting for you to catch fire.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, God. Well, but I'm laughing about that because I did the video and I made mention of vampires where that stuff did in the stream. Maybe it was the stream. It's like, I can see where people got these inspirations for these mythological characters from real people. Because if you have a hypersensitive person that's hypersensitive to light, yeah, they're going to be in the dark basement all the time. And then you're going to be able to say all kinds of things about them because they're never around. It's like,
yeah.
So it's like, and that's the other thing I think streams allow me to do too, is I can talk about my personal struggles a little bit easier on a stream than at the end of a video kind of thing. So, but yeah, I mean, the big issue, for me now is from a deconversion point of view is moving on. It's far more reconstruction than it's deconstruction anymore. But I was in it so long, it feels like every time I think I got it licked, something else comes up.
Yeah.
It's like every time, it's like, oh, why do I have this attitude about this person? Oh, it's because my Christianity used to say this about people. And it's like, I don't have that anymore, but there's an unconscious attitude that I got to deal with. And I don't think I'm ever going to completely get over it. That's the sad part about being in religion so long, is you never really completely get over it. Okay. It's kind of like being abused all those years. You never really completely get over it.
Well, then you get abused again by the, not all Christians by any means are awful, but then you got to take the online beating from them because you're an awful person. Once again, you're just mad at God. You want to sin. It's your fault that evolution is even a thought.
Well, I always find that funny because I become an atheist and suddenly I'm an expert in astrophysics, evolution. It's like,
that's what I was getting laughing. It's like atheism only answers one question, whether somebody does or doesn't or may not believe in a God or gods. That's all.
Yeah.
Then you've got to drag into, how do atheists deal with, something coming from nothing, even though that's what your book says. You have these mud ceremony, that date back for thousands of years before Judaism.
But yeah, I find it's the most humorous thing I deal with. It's like, oh, I'm suddenly an expert in evolution.
Yeah.
I'm suddenly an expert in astrophysics. Why don't you go talk to these people? Why don't you go talk to the experts about that?
I never knew about abiogenesis until I turned an atheist.
Yeah, and that's one of the big ones is, well, you haven't proven that life can come from non-life. I'm like, I don't need to prove that to dismiss God.
Right.
Okay. I just have to look at the evidence for God and go, nope. Okay.
Well, but it is, none of them have a solid case where they can say that their God is the ones that the creator. They might be able to get to a God, which this is just rhetorical, but you're not going to prove your God's the one that did it. So you're just, right back to where you started, Mr. Theist.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yeah. That's probably the most funny part that I deal with is like, I'm only dealing with one question and it's not a worldview. Those are the two things I fight back against most. because Christianity has created this atheist worldview. That's their creation. That's not mine. Okay.
Yeah.
That's something they made up. And it's all that stuff, well, what do you do with it? Like abiogenesis was always a funny subject for me when I was a creationist, because I would read the arguments against it. And then I go, once the online world happened, I could look up abiogenesis and go, well, the research has kind of come past that. Okay. And that's usually my response is, we've come a long way in the abiogenesis question. We know how it could have happened.
Right. Well,
And
you've
there's
got better explanations for, scientific things than a book says a thing and God done it, or God magic did it.
I was having that conversation when I was a teacher with one of my fellow teachers who was also kind of an agnostic deist type. And he was like, yeah, we just have so much better explanations of things now than the Bible does. So I think a lot of people recognize that. They just don't want to. Okay.
Well, I like to throw in Theists, not necessarily in their face, but, it's like I always ask them, tell me one time God replaced a scientific finding. And I can show you thousands of examples of where science did away with the God of the gaps.
Yeah. And that was my problem long term, is just like, I don't need God for this. I don't need God for that. I don't need God for this. And which God we're talking about is also, I use Odin a lot because Odin is a creator God too. Okay.
And how nicer than the geo. I say the geo.
Well, but if you read the mythology, the creation story of mankind is particularly funny, because Odin creates, man out of one type of wood and women out of another type of wood. And the first thing all the other gods do is object to it. What did you do that for?
So you're saying that women are responsible for mourning, right, according to Odin?
I guess. I'm guessing that you got to understand, with pagan gods, there's always a sexual reference. Somewhere.
Right. Oh, yeah.
It's always about sex. But it's like, they're like, the gods are like, what are you doing? These people are naked. They have no protection. What do you, it's like, what are you doing? They literally question Odin about his choice. Okay. So it's like, yeah, I can see that. Cause sometimes if humanity is created, yeah, I would question that choice. Why would we do that? So,
so would a woman be a softwood?
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. It's one of them's ash, and the other one I can't remember. So
ash is a hardwood, I believe.
Yeah, I think so. And so, but it's the idea that that's why they're different. They're created out of different types of wood. Well, Odin's just he's wandering the beach and finds two pieces of driftwood and turns them into humanity. Wow. So I mean, he's got some boss ways of creating too. He creates the world basically out of the dead bones of an ice giant. So it's like, yeah, I can get that. So
all non-conifers are hardwoods.
Yeah.
Oh, now we're going to use big words now, Rimmer. Oh,
hey, Rimmer's a smart guy. You're up against it there. He's a smart one. I don't have a lot of dumb people here. Okay, I don't. And most of the people that follow this channel are the atheists at least are pretty intelligent. And I loved it when I did the one reaction to the guy giving all these different AI scenarios. I Am Beggars one, where like everybody's a bot.
Oh yeah.
I got so many comments from some of my subscribers that are in AI, that they are actually doing programming in AI.
Oh, really?
And they were like, yeah, that's not how that works. So, I program AI, and we're not that far.
They're taking over.
Yeah, they're taking over.
Yeah, Bren has a question for you. I don't know if you've seen Bren's question. It says, how do you see cult infiltration into established religion?
Cult infiltration? Well, it depends on your
always
definition. Happens. If you're a mainline religiously oriented person, you are already open to being cultically influenced, because it doesn't take much to move you from one thing to another. I mean, there's an old joke among us atheists, like a religion is just a large cult. and a cult is just a small religion. It's the same nonsense either way to me now. But being a former Pentecostal, that's very cultic, because they ask you to believe something that they definitely can't prove, like you're having these experiences with God. And then I go halfway around the world into the Hindu community, and they have the same type of spiritual experiences, but it's with gods, plural. So it's like, cults and religions, I don't know. There's just not a lot of, variance to me. Ooh, Tardy's here. Good to see you, Tardy. And
you're about done, and he's Tardy. He's
he's living up to his name as usual. He's always late. So I remember that line in what is it? Van Halen's "Hot for Teacher." I don't feel tardy.
Yeah,
yeah. I remember that.
I
remember when first time I saw
that song stuck in my head. I swear I'm gonna blow you up on Facebook if I'm singing the song all night.
Well, the thing is, me and my daughter have the same problem. If you put something to a song and a song lyric, we remember it forever. It's oh my God.
Right. I got Alzheimer's, but I can tell you every song I've ever listened to in the 70s.
That's correct. That's correct. Oh, I'm fairly certain that the AI guy on Spotify that comes up for me is totally confused as to what my music taste is.
Well, that's my taste. I have an eclectic taste. Depends what my mood is and what's played.
All over the place. All over the place. Yeah. See, Earl brings up the valid point for all us. I don't know. There's some sort of thing that makes me think that this is an autistic trait that maybe a lot of people have. That if you just put it to music. I could remember Schoolhouse Rock worked for me too, for that reason. I bet you if you started singing some of them, I could sing them all. So, but yeah, it was just, it's song always has that effect on me, music. So it's why I can't get a lot of like the old hymns and worship songs that I used to sing out of my head sometimes, and that drives me insane. So, there's nothing like our God is an awesome God at the wrong moment. You know what I'm saying?
It doesn't go very good when you're watching Magic Mike or something.
No. But it's like I like to listen to bagpipes every once in a while. I have a band I picked up at Texas Renaissance Festival called Tartanic, and they do some really good pipe and drum stuff. And the problem is when you get into that, you'll run into Amazing Grace on the bagpipes 100 times.
Oh yeah,
it just drives me insane. It's like Amazing Grace. What a joke!
You can't listen to a saxophone without somebody playing, the Black or the Pink Panther theme song. Yep. So yeah, or guitars with Stairway to Heaven. Each instrument has its own little. Oh, I don't want to hear that again song.
Yeah, so it's like, and that's the problem. I was a pastor all these years and a Christian all these years, and I got all these worship songs and children's church songs from when I was a kid, and they're all up there, and they can come out at a moment's notice. So, I don't know.
Amazing Grace sounds like a drag show act. Rumor.
Oh, that's so true, though. She's Amazing Grace. So, oh man, but yeah. So yeah, it's. I think one of the biggest deconversion issues I deal with is music, because I miss singing in the choir. I really do. I love the harmonies, but there's nothing like that outside of a church, anymore for me. So I live in a rural area, so it's like, yeah, good luck.
Unless you went to one of those churches that had awful choir. I've been to a few of those churches, and it's just like agonizing. But the ones that have good choirs, it's like, yeah, let's jam for a little bit longer.
Yeah, we had a good one, and we also had a good pianist that could play the. I want to call it boogie woogie style.
That sounds like. I went to a church that had an organ and a piano that played at the same time, and it's kind of that feel like they're competing.
Yeah.
dueling banjos kind of thing.
Yeah,
Also
it was.
Jesus.
I give my last church credit. We had musical talent until we didn't. So, yeah, when those people died, we didn't have anything left.
Yeah, Bren, we can't. He's going to be the first mod.
Are you going to be Bren? Are you going to be the first mod that loses your moderator status? Come on.
Permanently timed out. That's funny, Bren. That is funny.
That is funny.
You only said that because you hate God. You're mad at him.
Yeah, you're mad at God. You want to sin. Oh, boy.
Is the far right trying to mix cult and religion to confuse those who are prone to following ideals over reality?
Okay. I've said it before and I've gotten pushback for it. I do not think right-leaning conservative and religious are equative. In other words, religion is a prostitute. It'll cling to anything that allows it to promote its agenda. If more of the agenda was being promoted by the left, Democrats, religion would cling to it. Okay. It goes whichever way it feels the best. I feel like religion is always this parasitical thing. It's not so yes, the far right can kind of use it. And religion will be happy to be used. I'll just put it that way. Okay. I now have a very, because I think if the Democrat leftists suddenly started talking about religious matters that religious people agreed with, they'd switch parties. Okay. It's like religion sleeps with whoever gives it an advantage.
Right.
Okay.
Well, I think a lot of people fail to remember that there are religious people on the left too. It's not all atheists.
Yeah,
it's not all atheists. Community.
I have to remind people that Biden's a Catholic. It's like he is a Catholic. He's just not a very good one.
You're right.
No, it's like for me, religion is very much. I'm sorry, the prostitute analogy works for religion. Yep. It will sleep with whatever is in political power to give it the most advantage.
There you go. The whore Babylon.
Yeah, that's a good reference.
Yeah, there you go, Saint.
Yeah, it's like it. Yeah, it's very, and so I don't find that like conservatism by itself without the religion is his own political philosophy, and it's mostly about preserving things that are good. Okay, a conservative is a conservationist at heart. He wants to preserve what is good. That's why they tend to be patriotic. That's why they tend to be, traditional. And right now, religion passes itself off as traditional. Okay. There are times though religion has passed itself off as progressive. So, if a new religion comes into a country that doesn't have that religion, we're the progressive religion, and that appeals to the progressives. So I really think religion is the prostitute analogy is a good one for religion. Yeah. It will, whichever way the wind blows. So,
and Bren, you're fine on my end. I'm a very morbid sense of humor myself and sexual. So yeah, you didn't offend me at all. No reason to be sorry.
Come on, man. I'm doing an entire series where I take, biblical stuff and go the dark end of Halloween with it.
Yeah.
Come on. I mean, this is there's a meme out there, you found it offensive. I found it funny. That's why I'm happier than you.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I feel about humor. A lot of times I think it's good to laugh at yourself, and a lot of my humor is self-directed most of the time anyway. So like go dark places with my brain. And so I just carry everybody else with me.
Right.
So
the cult of Jesus.
The cult of Jesus. Yeah. I mean, and it really depends on which Jesus you're having a cult about too,
That's true. Well, no two Jesuses are the same.
No, I've never found two Jesuses to be same. You talk to 100 different people about Jesus actually, and you'll get 100 different Jesuses. So
40,000 denominations. Let's see.
Yeah, that's why we have so many denominations and stuff. The Bible isn't very clear about.
And all atheists are Satanists. We know that.
Yeah, we're all Satanists. I had to leave the meetings because my protein count is getting too high because of the babies and all that shit. It's like.
Yeah, I heard about your last baby barbecue you had that you pulled up.
Oh my God. the stuff that's said that just, it should be dismissed, but people don't. It's like, come on, man.
And some
All
claim
right, well,
to.
well, I'm going to have to call it quits. So I'm hitting my limit.
All right,
No,
thank you. I'll back out, and you can do your little shut down, and I can watch the awkward pause at the end.
Yeah, I'm working on that. I'm working about the intros and outros. I'll get there. So, but thanks very much for stopping by, Aso. I appreciate it.
All right. Have a good rest of your week.
You too. All right, that's going to be it for me in this live stream. Thank you very much for stopping by. I want to express my appreciation to all my members and my mods tonight. Thank you very much. Appreciate you. Joe Shade, thank you for the donations. Appreciate all of that. Make sure you like and share the video. It always helps the algorithm see me. So thank you very much. I appreciate all of you. And as always, live your best life. You only get one go around and then it's over. So make sure you're taking all your time, money, and opportunities and spending them for yourself, the people you love and care for, to make this a better world. You'll be happier if you do. And don't waste them on the trappings of religion and faith, because that's a dead end. I speak from experience. And as always, thanks for stopping by, and I'll catch you next time.